I'm that girl who has amazing friends. And part of this journey that I'm going to be dragging you all, kicking and screaming to be a part of this year is about having conversations with different practitioners and different empowered people that I think deserve to have a voice and a platform to be able to share their awesomeness and their perspectives, as we are all very much human here, jazz handsing our way through 2023. Hello, my friend. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. Totally awesome. We're starting to feel summer now as if it's a real thing here in New Zealand. So that's exciting.
Same in Australia, actually. 37 beach weather.
37 degrees. That's not Fahrenheit, is it? That's the old Celsius.
That was Celsius, yeah.
Oh my God. That's no, my friend. No, that's way too hot. That's sweaty,
Yeah.
uncomfortable. That's sticky. That you would be sticky in that environment.
Yeah. I had to water my plants before it got any hotter. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Wow. We can't complain about the weather. It is what it is, man-made and everything.
Yeah, exactly. You
So
do.
you did humanity a huge solid favor for all of those people who know how to read Spanish. And so I think what you did and how you approached me was incredible. And you had a beautiful heart. You have a beautiful heart and a beautiful agenda to help as many people as you possibly can, which of course makes us basically Siamese twins, best friends, because really that is kind of the same mission that I have as well. We just, you know, we force our love onto others.
Yeah, exactly. Whether they like it or not.
You will be empowered.
Yeah, exactly. But you can't complain now. Yeah, they permissions here. Have it. Smother them to a point.
Wow, yeah. And I mean, it's only because I mean, I can speak for myself, I've struggled being human for so long, understanding the significance of these purposes of what was going on and why, and what was kind of my hold, what was holding me back from feeling empowered, feeling loved, feeling inspired and capable of doing the things that I want to do. And ironically, to get onto that journey, now I find I'm doing a lot of stuff I don't actually really want to do. Like I know that these books are really important and that's the stuff. And I know that they keep saying face your fears. And I think, well,
Yeah.
seriously, taking a person who is dyslexic, who really doesn't have any confidence in spelling. Once you start chatting with me privately, especially like on Facebook or Telegram or emails, I just say, good luck with translating this. I do not proofread. Go for it. Feel into my integrity. Human words, English words mean nothing to me, really.
That's good because yeah, likewise. Yeah,
So,
talk about the feeling. It's the gut that you get. It's like reading into each other.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I sort of felt like that was a bit too sort of rude to do that. And I also sort of felt when I didn't believe in my intuition, and I sort of just thought, oh, that's weird. Why would I think that that person's got a weird agenda and not being honest with
Mhm.
themselves or me? Well, that's what's wrong with you, Joe? Like I always used to like belittle my intuition because right there in
Yeah.
that moment, they weren't doing the things that I could foresee them doing. Now, some
Mm.
people could say, well, if you think that they're going to be an asshole, they will always be an asshole because you're thinking about it. But in reality, when I could sense that they had sort of, an agenda to be an asshole, for a lesson or purpose, whatever, not judging, but I
Mhm.
would always dismiss it. And I would feel so terrible that I felt that about them, that I would push myself even closer to them because I felt that guilt of that time where I kept sensing that you were, don't have the best integrity for yourself or for humanity or for our friendship or blah, 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 blah. And so I sort of would
Mm.
feel guilty and terrible for my intuition because I didn't want that intuition to be true. So therefore, could it be said that just because you get this intuition doesn't make that then the truth and you manifest that in some regards?
Yeah. Well, that was a bit of a I didn't want to come and ask you for permission for for your work, obviously, for when I found the information that I found. And then I didn't want you thinking that I was trying to, I don't know, take advantage of your information. You know how there's a lot of practitioners, it's like, I found this is mine, and it's fine. But if you're helping the collective, then, and if I could help in some way, that was the approach, really. And but and then I'm like, I don't want to ask. I don't want to ask. I don't want to ask. And then they kept on bombarding me with, like, no, you gotta ask, you gotta ask. And then so I was, awkward messages to you because I kept pushing me to you.
Yeah.
Oh, but I want to do that. And then excuse the dog. But yeah, eventually we got there.
And so
Yeah.
you just wanted to translate the book as it was without sort of getting any contact with me and just sort of publishing it, or what were you sort of hoping to do originally? The easiest route that you thought?
The easiest route was for me to read it, for me to translate it in Spanish. But then I didn't realize how, like, I'm okay at Spanish, but I'm not the best. And then and then I was going to read it in Spanish, um, like, because translate it and then read it out. And then I thought that was going to be amazing. Like, I was so excited to read it, and that's it, just be done with it and share it with my I've got a family in El Salvador, and my family, my mom is into I do sessions with her, and she's fascinated by all this work. So I was gonna show her and share it with her. So potentially all my family, whoever was interested in listening, that was what I was going to do.
Wow. Yeah.
Because I knew they weren't going to read it in English, let alone in Spanish. I don't know.
Yeah. And now it's on Amazon. And,
Yeah.
Because of all of your efforts, because you love your family so deeply and so desperately want to get this information without it being, your sessions, your information. And just because you said it, you kind of want to have this, actually, this is other people getting the same information. It's kind of a real thing. It's not just made up stories. This is the real deal.
Yeah. And for me, this information has been coming through all my life, but I just didn't know it. So I was raised as a Christian, Pentecostal. So they scare you into thinking that that you're going to go to jail if you don't go to church. So we all knew that there was the rapture was coming. So early on, when I started doing sessions, I did a session with my mum, and I asked about the rapture. And then they're like, oh, yeah, we're all moving into a different frequency. We're moving on. Like, everybody knows that. Like, it says even in the Bible, we're all moving on. And then, when I read your book that you shared, I was like, oh, that's the same information I got. And that's the same information that we've been, people have been drumming all along, but we didn't know how. So instead of being scared that because you don't go to church, you're going to be left behind, it's a different thing. It's a different, not quite, it's not that it's because you're at church, you're gonna be saved. And it was interesting in the book how it said, a lot of the people in the church are gonna be left behind. And because it's inner work, and it's not being next to the pastor or next to the church, like in the church. So it was similar things that drew me to this to your work, because I've been, and it wasn't until I started thinking about it, and it's like, oh, I've known this all my life, but I didn't know what it meant until now.
Yeah. And I kind of see that, like, religions in general, they get lumped all in one category. It sort of seems like we don't like gray areas of anything. It's either good or bad, negative or bullshit or manipulation or corruption or something, something, something. And I sort of feel like lots of people want to wrap up all religions and say, that's the naughty list. And when you sort of remove people's egos and the peer pressure and the rankings and the money that goes in along sort of side the religions, when you get to the core values without it being sort of twisted and perverted and manipulated into going into fear, there could be said that there is good statements in all religions. You may just have to go back to the original intention of it, but
yeah. So that was and that was sort of in 2020 when I started. I came across Dolores's work, and I kept on pushing it away, as I do, because why am I listening to, like, she kept on appearing on my YouTube.
She's
I turned it off. Yeah, and then I turned it off. I'm like, why am I listening to this old lady? And then second time, like, I went back to what I was watching, and then it appeared again on my feed, and I'm like, and then I tuned in for a bit, and then I'm like, I realized, what am I doing? What am I watching this? And then the third time she appeared, I'm like, oh well, I'll just leave it and see what she has to say, because she has that ability to. She had the ability to draw you in with her lectures. And then I finished I think it was the 3 Waves of Volunteers, the one that I bumped into first, and then I had to search her up, and then I saw all the lectures that she had on YouTube, and then I booked myself for like a free session on with the interns, because interns are free. So I booked like
that sounds
3.
amazing. I have to check out all of my interns to see that, because that's a price I can afford, and that sounds great. Sorry, keep going.
So I booked myself for 3 sessions just because I wanted to know if I was going to get the same thing on each session, and they were all different and with different practitioners, so they I was able to listen to their journey and how they got started, and how they were finding the work. And then after my first session, like, I could feel this surge of energy just going through me, and then the information that I was getting, I was like, well, I don't know where that came from. Like, it wouldn't have been me talking, even though it's me talking, but it's not something that I would have said.
Yeah. It's sort of like your lips are being hired out by advanced beings that are taking your vehicle for a drive.
Yeah, and it was easy to think that I was making it all up. But then the energy surge that I got in my whole body, that wasn't made up. It was like a feeling of crying, like full of energy, like I was about to cry, but I wasn't crying. My voice was very stern and very direct. And then so, it took me a while to process as to what had happened.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until I did the course, the QHHT course, that everything, like, things were explained, and after looking for things and searching other avenues, that I got a full understanding. I got a better understanding as to what the process is and how it all comes together, and that
Amazing.
it's not your human mind making stuff up for the fun of it. It's
So
it's bigger.
you've dated a few interns, and then you said you got different information. Explain to me sort of like the way of the different information that you'd get. Like, obviously, was it conflicting information or?
Well, like, I wanted to dive in. It wasn't I wanted to dive into my past. So I come from a long line of Christianity. Like I said, like, I was raised as a Christian, but then broke off from that belief system so early on. And then I went on my own sort of journey into trying to find myself. So I wanted to get an understanding as to why things had happened to me, like why, there was abuse in the family. I wanted to get an understanding as to why. And I wanted to know what was the purpose of that. And the information that they gave me was, how would you know how to help people if you didn't go through it yourself? So now you have first and you could experience that firsthand. And that's the reason you had to experience it in order to help others.
And can you remind me, sorry, is this your first and only ever human lifetime, or are you a volunteer? Remind me what's going on there for you.
Well, I think I need to they say that I'm a volunteer, but I think I need to explore it deeper. Because I don't, I need to get it like a bigger understanding. I'm still not quite sure as to how that all relates. Like,
have you
because
experienced, have you
yeah,
experienced a regression other lifetimes on Earth?
not quite. Like, I can grasp things, but yeah, I think it's a topic for another day. But
Sorry.
I, not like the way other people can feel things and can sense things, and they have all these visuals. Like, it's not like that, it's different.
Oh, yeah, and most people don't
Yeah,
get visuals. Most people don't get
yeah,
visuals. But it was more kind
yeah.
of like, did you explore in the sessions any other lifetimes here on Earth? And if so, were they questioned to be imprints or not?
They weren't questioned to be imprints, but I did get like a life of a fisherman, a lonely fisherman, or like, and there was another lifetime of a bird. But whether it was an imprint or not, I think that's the one that I need to get
Sure.
clarification.
But they did clarify the significance of showing you those lifetimes this lifetime.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
Perfect.
they did.
Oh, that's kind of the importance of it, really.
Yeah, exactly. So whether yeah, I need to ask exactly, like, because I think they did say that there was another vehicle, or there was another person having an experience, or
So a parallel life.
parallel. I know. Yeah, I forget what they said, but yeah, I will need to explore it in a
Okay, sorry. Yeah, it's not a quiz, not a soul quiz today, my friend. So how did you find so you sort of felt like this, mastering old earth is information that you sort of felt like you already kind of were privy to in some other format, and it wasn't quite a big shock and gasp, but it was more kind of like a curiosity to sort of see how things unfold, as you would sort of call it, I don't know, is it Armageddon or
the rapture, yeah.
The rapture.
Yeah. So yeah, the rapture was pretty much, if you don't the understanding is that if you go away from God's word and from the church, then you will be in Armageddon, and only the bad people that don't go to church will be in this Armageddon.
Yes.
But how lovely is it that it's not just the bad people that don't go to church, it's the people that haven't done their inner work.
Yes, well, it sort of seems like if you replace the word church by empowerment and inner work, because they sort of say, I mean, I think Jesus has sort of said that, our church is our bodies. We must worship our bodies because they are holding the divine essence of, God, source, energy, which is part of our soul essences. And, there's kind of all that fun stuff. But, labels and names trip us up and trigger us to, focus on being human and what it really means. In terms of Mastering Human, have you started reading that one?
No, because when I ordered my copy, I didn't realize, so that when I was translating the Old Earth, what was the title again? The
Mastering Old Earth. Yeah.
Mastering Old Earth. So I got to read I kept on reading the English version, and then to make sure that the Spanish version would translate. And then so they got that. make sure that I knew exactly what everything was. So I had to reread things, and in both languages in order to
Oof.
get the
God.
the firm understanding. And then so when I went to order my book, I didn't realize that I ordered Mastering Old Earth. So I got my Mastering Old Earth copy, and then I was like, oh, but that's not what I ordered. And then I went to look at my order, and yeah, there it was. I had ordered the wrong one.
Oh,
Um,
tricky
obviously,
times.
I need a copy, obviously they were saying to me I needed a copy
Mm.
of that one instead of just on the online or on the
Yes. Oh my
computer.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah,
So they
yeah,
keep giving me this message. People need to print the books. And I'm like, oh, everyone's got the
yeah,
copies. Everyone's got the PDF. Of course, people have
yeah,
printed off the
exactly.
books. Hello. You're supposed to be advanced beings. And then they're like, no, the people aren't doing it. They've either forgotten, it's on their to-do list, or they don't truly know how to print off this mammoth,
Yeah,
huge document to give it kind of, I don't know, the significance that it needs or whatever. And so I kind of was like, oh, and I sort of was a bit surprised and kind of confused and sort of like, oh, that's news to me. I feel like I'm pressuring people to drink your water, love your fucking self, get interns, go for it, help them out. Like I kind of feel like if they hear one more thing that I'm asking from them, they're going to be like, this bitch needs to get the fuck out of my life because she's demanding. And the thing is that it comes from love. It so
yeah,
does. Like I could cry in a heart because, like just recently they keep saying, people are at that edge again where they're like, I think I'm just going to have a quiet exit point. No one can stop me.
mhm,
And the teams are like, it's not quiet because we can feel your pain, we can feel your trauma, we can feel all this sort of stuff. And so they're kind of like nudging me again to be like in people's faces and reminding them you're loved. You may forget it, but every day, always you're loved. And,
exactly.
definitely some days we don't feel it. And,
Yeah,
this is part of an inner work journey. And it's hard. This is incredibly hard. And if we can't be honest with ourselves what we're struggling with, well, we have to sort of identify what's really going on for us first, right? To be able to know how to fix and heal ourselves.
it's letting that knowingness within come out, not
Yes.
stop hiding it and suppressing it
Yeah.
um from
Honor it.
yourself.
Yeah. Honor it. Like,
Yeah, allow
um,
it to come.
that whole intuition thing where it's like, I'm still sort of finding myself saying to my friends, I don't know why this is coming to me, but I'm just going to tell you, take it or leave it. None of my business that I've totally pried into your entire life. And I've got some information that I need to share with you, but, don't mind me if I just, and I don't mean to pry into it, people like that at all, because I do kind of find it's rude, so I know my delivery is really important because if I
Yeah,
sort of went to my friends and went, oh my gosh, your whole family is effed. Your whole family is stuck in mud. Like your whole family is in fear and they're just dreadfully, dreadfully miserable. What are you doing to help them? Like, like there's such importance in delivery. And it's hard enough getting these senses to let alone get this information, to get this push to reach out to people and be like, how are you doing, my friend? What's going on for you? Fun times, right? How's the weather?
yeah. Well, it's hard. It's hard to because you don't want to push your agenda on people. And then when you see other things, like you would, because my mum has the same sort of senses, so she'll be, it's like, oh, we're looking for houses, and then she'll be like, I showed her a picture of a house, and then she's like, oh, okay, that's nice, yeah, that's nice. And then later on, it wasn't until I told her that we didn't get the house. She's like, oh yeah, I knew you weren't gonna get it. I've
Mum,
already been to the house.
oh,
Why
don't.
didn't
Oh
you
my
tell me? And
gosh.
I'm like, well,
Yeah.
you were so excited. I wasn't going to be the one to tell you.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, because that is the sucky thing about being the bearer of bad news. Oh, you love that? Oh, it sucks to be you because you're not going to have it. Some other family's going to love all of their lives there.
exactly
It is
right.
challenging because no one wants to be, the bearer of that information, especially when, but the thing is that you would have gone there knowing, Mom, you are sensitive to me and to my life. What do you think about this? And so maybe, I mean, did you ask her, what do you feel about this? Is this going to be our home? What was your,
Yeah.
how did you deliver this, begging of your mother's intuition to be given to you?
Well, I didn't ask her because, I essentially I didn't really, we were in different states. So, that, we talk whenever, but I give her like pieces of information sometimes of things that are happening. I don't always tell her everything.
Oh, you're
So
still trying to be independent. You're like, you don't know
yeah,
me. I
exactly.
can do whatever I
Yeah.
want. I can have this house if I want. And you didn't ask your mother because you knew the truth already. But you still wanted to dismiss your own intuition, knowing that this house wasn't going to be for you, but you're just having a fantasy right now about that house.
I'm allowed to, I mean, like we're having this human experience, so we're allowed to dream once in a while.
Of course. Of course. I
But
can't tell you
you
how many
know,
times I fantasize about having a clean, orderly, my laundry is all done and like that's a fantasy for me right now. That's like, that would be a clean floors.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, the laundry done. Oh my gosh. Like, oh.
Yeah, so going in the future, I might just ask her, "What do you think about this?"
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
So she
But
can tell me.
to empower yourself though, ask yourself, see what you feel, and then have a confirmation. Because I think when we're trying to empower ourselves, and I was just talking to Sally just before we jumped on this conversation, and she was sort of saying how she was recognizing that we're only growing our intuition more now. It's we can never go backwards. And I think when we work really hard to grow where we are at, we're almost afraid that somehow we're going to be put back to zero, start that marathon again. You didn't do it with like jazz hands and joy. You kind of cried halfway through and wanted to vomit and sort of say, I'm out, thanks. Can you carry me the rest of the way? Because that would have been my journey as a marathon runner. Absolutely. So, we're here now as we are, and we know the true value of inner peace and where we're at now. And I guess part of us is a little bit worried that, it kind of feels like it was just given to us, right? We've forgotten how hard and all of the steps that we got here to be here now. And some of us probably feel like, well, could go backwards. But especially when we have new lessons and we're having new experiences to see, can we still apply what we already know to this new, what we think is a new problem, because it's different people, it's different scenarios, it's different ice cream flavors, blah, 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 blah. Oh my gosh, I have to say, discovered anchovy ice cream, the recipe. I know, gagging for it. If anyone wants that recipe, ask me for it, because maybe now, there is a new kid in town. Goodbye, pickle ice cream. The scariest one ever is anchovy ice creams. Because when I think what's the worst flavor ice cream there could possibly be? Anchovies and ice cream. That's a delicacy, I think, in Swedish culture.
Oh no. Wide taste. Yeah, I don't know if I'm willing to try that one.
Face your fears. Look, like if I can help sort of organize books, then Okay, so you're very impressive because this information is pretty advanced, and to be able to translate it into another language, because you love your family so deeply, and ultimately what you've done without even really realizing is that you're honoring all of your sisters and brothers who are able to read Spanish. And I've already come across some people that do read Spanish, and so this is a gem for them. This is so significant. And I struggled even with the comprehension in the whole process of even writing a book in English. And I'm supposedly a speaker of English. And so this is a huge step for me. And I just think what you've done for humanity is tremendous. And I love how we just think, we'll just do it for a few people that we just love. And then, oh, whoopsie. And the rest of humanity that speaks English. Oh, sorry, speaks Spanish.
Spanish, yeah.
And that's how what I sort of feel like that's how true leaders are accidentally born and formed. is because, you know, those people that want to be grand and do big things and make big statements and be huge and popular, blah, 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 they don't have this integrity of the content or the values or the moral compasses that you kind of need to be a positive influence on people. And I think, you know, you've just done something because you saw a need, and that's how, you know, you weren't doing it because you wanted, you know, your version of Mastering Old Earth to be worldwide. I mean,
Absolutely.
I think you would have, and I think this is the problem when we start understanding and grasping the significance of this work, that in itself puts so much pressure on us. And I think when you were just doing it because it's a love gesture for your parents and for your family, that kind of was like, I mean, usually our friends and family are our biggest kind of influences and critics anyway. And I sent you that photo of my son who's turning 4 next week. And he was so excited that the book of books, and there was a book that a box of something that arrived, and he was so excited, super excited. And then he wanted to open it, and he was saying how much he hopes it's toys. And then I took a photo of his face when he realized it was books. And I guess it looks like if someone's eating anchovy ice cream, that's the look that he
Looks so excited though when he had his box in his little and hot little hands.
oh, he was so excited, you know, but then disappointed there was no toys. And then, you know, they flick through my books, and they flick through the like my books of Dolores Cannons and a whole lot of stuff. And I sort of think, are they going to notice that there is no pictures or anything? Like, what's their interest? And I mean, Grayson would just sit there and just flick the pages and tell me this big story, and he's reading it to me. And then, you know, he's really entertaining with his his kind of, you know, he sort of adds in stories about the dinosaurs and a whole lot of stuff in there. And, you know, he's really entertaining me with his with his translations of what's in the book. And then the end, and then closes it up and then passes it to me. And
It's done. It's done on my show.
oh, bless him. Yeah. And I mean, our family and friends are so significant. And, you know, they're the ones that should be holding us accountable if we've got some limited perspectives or some attitudes that kind of are a bit funky. But also when we are doing good, and we are seeing things from a positive perspective, and we've kind of got this attitude of, you know, everything's significant and purposeful, and, you know, nothing's going to get me down, and if anything is starting to get me down, I'm going to see if I can find a new perspective that's going to empower me and uplift me. And when we notice people that've got that great attitude, I mean, apart from just like clapping and hugging them and saying, I see you, you're amazing, what you're doing right now is inspiring, it's exciting, it's super motivational, you know, keep going, this is awesome, this is empowering humanity. It has to be, because, you know, when one person's high frequency vibrations, we all rub off on each other, you know, good or bad.
Exactly. And then, you know, you're a ripple effect. You think you're not doing much, or you think it's not progressing, or, you know, like it's very frustrating sometimes when you're like, what am I supposed to be doing? You know, then you get angry at your things because, you know, it's like, because you're not tuning in, and that's all you need to do, tune in, and then
Trust.
you'll get the answer, and
Yeah.
trust that whatever you're doing is the perfect thing that you're doing at the moment.
Yeah.
And I
And
think that was the biggest lesson that I learned, you know, translating the book, because I gave up halfway, and, you know, you would know that I gave up. um, and then I was like, you know, why do I need to do this? And then, because I just wanted to read it, like I said to you, like I just wanted to read it in Spanish, because, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, now I'll be done. And then they're like, no, continue. You're gonna continue. I'm like, all right.
and
Um,
and our free will is like, well, no, I want to just do the thing that I want to do, thank you.
yeah,
And then our guides are like, but we are looking at your fine print of your life contracts, and you promised humanity that you would do this. And then
exactly.
we almost feel like, this is when I feel like we have these little tantrums, you know, with our not saying that you did, but I mean, I
Yeah,
certainly did when I realized that they were wanting me to do a book for
yeah,
Mastering Human. I was like, you've got the wrong person. You absolute muppets. Seriously, me, you've got to be kidding. And then I think I had this big cry because I had all of this insecurities of like, well, I'm gonna just fuck humanity over, aren't I, then, with this? Because I can't do this. Like, it was like I felt like it was asking a person with no arms and legs to run a marathon, and then to do a triathlon, then ride a bike, and then swim. And I just was like, I have no capabilities of doing this. And it made me just feel like, oh, this is just a trick. This is just ridiculous, because how on earth can I do this?
Yeah.
And of course, they're like, well, find friends, find people who have got their skill sets, ask for help, rely on people, make this team work, And then it was like, oh my God, do you think people would want to help me? It's like, this is a huge ask, because when
Yeah.
it's not my natural skill sets, and it feels like, like especially right now, like editing more books, I've got two huge books, super important books. And, to go through and edit these again, when we sort of felt like, oh, we just had to update Mastering Old Earth. And then, oh, we just needed to create this new Mastering Human book, which is profound. I'm happy to send you some copies of it. And then this other book, I'm super proud of, which is The Shift to New Earth, which is about the series from the 10 different clients asking the same questions. Because I think when we did a session, I think you wanted to explore some of those questions yourself just for clarification. Is that right? Or
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. So I've been doing sessions. With interns, and but I feel like, we need to do a session with just them wanting to, because they haven't experienced a session themselves. So that's like, usually that's been the okay, we'll do whatever, so you can experience a session, and then a follow-up session to do those questions.
oh yeah,
So that,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a process. So it's in
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So
And that's what
yeah.
we hear from Dolores, and that's what I recommend myself, is that this information about the shift isn't usually what the first thing they were willing to say. You've really got to make sure that you clear all of your inner work, empower yourself, heal yourself, do all of that stuff for this lifetime, which is super significant, to then be ready for the next step. And I see a lot of practitioners who refuse to look at any of their inner work because they have this assumption that they have no inner work, that they're awesome, and that they're just here to be a gift to humanity, and yet they haven't touched their inner work, and so therefore they're not getting this information because they are not ready for it themselves. I mean, you listened to Dolores when she taught us level 1, which she said very clearly. I mean, she said lots of things to us very clearly, which like screamed out to me, which was, if you don't do enough of your inner work, you're going to limit the clients.
Yeah, and that was, I heard it from your I don't remember her saying it, but I do remember you saying it in I think one of the videos. And
Okay.
I was insulted. I was like, oh well, as you do. But then it forced me to look within and be like, well, what haven't you uncovered? What haven't you done? And if this is what the information that you're not getting, why is that?
Yeah.
And progress from there.
Well, sorry
But
for the trigger.
yeah, and then because I was like, well, I know the technique. I've done BQH as well. You know what I mean? Like all this thing, but you gotta do your inner work. You can't help others if like it's like there's like a story in the Bible about removing someone's sty from their eye. Like if you don't have it when you still got your sty in your eye. So
Oh,
you can't take somebody else's out if you still got yours. So
right.
it's like that, you can't help somebody else when you still are lacking. And then so
Very true.
that was, yeah, so that
Yeah.
was like, a huge, um, you know,
So
step for me.
we had quite a few helpers with this book that aren't living anymore physically. And they kept seeing how people were responding to the work. And it seems like the people who are in the know, who aren't practitioners, or even if they are practitioners, but clients, trying to get the interns these books for them to really remember what they sort of signed up for, but also practitioners in general who have sort of developed a few bad habits. And even it could be said a few egoic bad habits. Well, I did a few sessions when I was learning. I'm all fine now. My life isn't a hot mess. I kind of have balance, blah, 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 blah. But we all can, collect a few sort of perspectives,
It's a work
maybe.
in process. Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
work in process. I mean, like,
Yeah.
and what I got at the start when I was doing my free sessions with interns,
Mm.
and then I came, like, what I was getting then and what I'm asking now is different.
Mm-hmm.
It's more, and now I need to work in getting more direct, more of the bigger picture. Because I have asked before, with I had a session with my mom in Spanish, and then she's like, oh, her higher self's so funny, and like, they're like, oh, what's it to do with you? You don't need information now. I was like, whoa.
That,
That's
yeah, they're brutal, right? Like they
yeah,
are, I mean, they're honest and they
like, of
trigger
course,
us because
yeah.
we sort of are polite and we kind of don't speak our full truth about, what we see and observe. But and I know so many people. This is why I got a bit scared, like channeling for people privately, because I kind of knew that if the client's got this attitude that they know everything and that they're whatever, whatever, whatever. And I could never say it to them, like my opinions and thoughts and senses about them. But, as soon as I surrender and start channeling, their higher self or their subconscious or my subconscious isn't going to be playing human to
No,
human egos and
exactly.
pander them any which way. And holy shit, has that fucking triggered people, like, to the point where they get all like, I don't know, tantrumy and then victim and then outraged and all this sort of stuff. And,
Yeah,
get really butthurt about it. And it's kind of like, I'm the vehicle. You don't go on holiday, have a shit time on holiday because of the weather or whatever, 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 and blame the plane or blame the taxi or blame the bus or like, you would never take out your shitty experience on your holiday with what actually got you there. And,
exactly.
and so I kind of just keep saying to people, it would be really good if you could just, channel for yourself.
Do it
Let
yourself.
you let your own
Yeah.
subconscious yell and scream at you and call you something.
Because the amount of times I've wanted to step ahead from where I was,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're like, no, you can't. We're not giving you this information now.
Yeah. Well, I have experienced, people who have got advanced, super advanced souls, super, super, super advanced souls, and they know they could do so much more to help humanity. And their teams are like, well, you can't. That would disempower them. They've got to do this shit on their own for themselves. And we just have to be their backup dancers. And it's like, I mean, maybe we used to be in planets we used to smother people with love and that used to be empowering them. you know um because I think I might need a holiday from that, to go there for a bit, because I think I've got some great skills to smother people to death with my love and worry and fear and all that sort of stuff to help them awaken and grow and blah blah blah, drink so much water it's coming out of their noses, like I just, it's
Around them.
about balance. And sometimes we can overlove people with too much of our own desires, but you probably want bigger information because you feel like you deserve it, because you feel like, well, I'm ready for it, I'm not afraid of anything, give it to me. And
Yeah,
that's sort of, yeah.
this was a while back, but I was trying to jump ahead. when I think it was when I first started translating the book, and then I was like, oh yeah, well, stumbled across this information. I must be awesome.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, you're not. So that.
How rude.
Yeah, exactly. And then so I was like, and then I think that was part of the tantrum that I threw. I'm like, well, I'm not doing this, well, I don't
Yeah.
care, like, whatever. Like, I just wanted to read it. I don't want to do anything, It's gonna take
Yeah. I just want to take the information for myself. I don't want to be supporting the information, translating it for others. But I can tell you that people who are going to find Mastering Old Earth in Spanish, this is huge for them. This is huge for them. So thank you for that. That's amazing. And you're so right. People do need to have sessions. Everyone needs to have sessions just to see, is there any old information that is out of date that we should be hearing from? Is there any old inner work that I don't realize is still impacting me this lifetime? Is there any other lifetimes that are impacting me this lifetime that I still need to grow from? And is there any karmic contracts I still have outstanding that I need to work on? And it's
practitioners holding space for people. I mean, you need to really do the sessions continuously.
Yeah.
Do sessions for yourself.
Yeah.
And making sure that you're aligned.
Yeah. This is why I'm super excited about that session, the Shift in New Earth book, because this is holding all practitioners accountable to make sure that they are actually asking the questions that they should be, and to not have any assumptions, and to double check that they aren't. It's all fine helping others, but have you double checked that you've helped yourself? Because I see a lot of practitioners holding back. And then they sort of have that experience that you did. They don't get they don't get the advanced information. They get just told, no, we're not going to tell you this now. And the practitioner should say, well, what should they be focusing on? The practitioner is so sort of shocked that the client's subconscious has said, no, declined, that they don't know what to do. They don't know, okay, it's kind of like there still needs to be conversation. Oh, why would you say that, subconscious? What's going on there for them to help me out? Because lots of practitioners are so used to asking the subconscious questions, they don't actually want to be the clients themselves. They won't take full control. And this is when I find lots of practitioners start using their clients to seek out the information that the practitioner seeks for themselves. And I've had lots of people who have, when I was like an intern, and even over beyond intern, I was helping heaps of other practitioners around the world with BQH. And, they'd have my questions that I would like them to have asked my subconscious when I was under. And they sort of got so sidetracked that they forgot even asking my own questions. And they started going on massive rants for themselves and calling in like their dead mother, and calling in, Dolores, and calling in a whole bunch of people just to have it out with them. And it just felt a bit self-serving for them. And it was fine because they truly needed it. But then what did they do with the information?
Exactly.
Do they do what you did, which is grow from it eventually after having that natural human reaction? You've been guided to do these sessions. What on earth do you mean you're not going to give me this information that I've asked from you?
What do you mean I'm not a unicorn and you can't give me that information?
Yeah. Well, I have lots of clients that say, why don't I have my gifts yet? And I'm like, well, we haven't shifted yet. We can't. We're human here. We're human. That is like sitting on all of our talents, especially when we can use energy really well in other dimensions, sitting on our hands so we can't use our energy the way that we would want to naturally use our energy. But it seems like now that I'm asking many to bring it in, to call it in, and to not just only have it like in our own energy frequency, but to share it out. It seems like now we're allowed to do this, because I don't think prior that when we had high frequency energy, what has been given to us now and shared out now, I don't think it was allowed to be accepted, because it sort of seems like this was part of not breaching their free will, but it was kind of like they were supposed to empower themselves energetically, naturally themselves. And now when we ask in sessions, they're saying we're not breaching people's free will as such, we're just bending their free will. And it's kind of like, well, I mean, that sort of sounds a bit sort of Tomato, tomato. But anyway, they know what they're doing. And, you know, you would be pissed off if you were an advanced soul coming here to have a human earth life experience and you wanted to wake up naturally, and then some hyperactive, excitable, passionate for humanity being came and kind of gave you the biggest spoiler alert ever when you were like, I want to do it on my own, thank you. You would be kind of, I mean, when you're not human, you would be accepting of it. But when you are human, you'd be outraged that someone was trying to awaken you without your permission.
Permission, yeah, exactly. And if you think how long it takes to get there, and then somebody comes and, you know, spoils that for you.
Especially if it's like your 1000th lifetime and you were just about to notice the insignificant, like the inconsistent nature information of the mainstream media. You're just about to start waking up to certain control systems that may not be telling you the truth, and then someone comes and yanks it away from you. Anyway, so well, there's that. And so yes, maybe I should, out of my gratitude for you for doing this huge epic translating of the book Mastering Old Earth, I can send you out the latest copies, because the Mastering Human's beautiful. And I know some people are struggling with the size of it because it's a big manual format. So what I was doing earlier today was reorganizing it so it can actually be printed out as an actual tiny little typical paperback book size, the same size as what the new Mastering Old Earth is, and what the same size as the Shift to New Earth book size is. So there's going to be a consistent size set, because someone was sort of saying that they just found it like silly that it was just so big. But then because it is it's almost an A4. And, we were trying to rush out getting this information out as fast as possible, because we felt like there was this massive push, massive drive. And we also got told that these books are never going to be perfect. Like, I think a perfect book would take years to groom and fine tune the editing, and, years to select the imagery and then the fonts and a whole lot of stuff. I mean, I'm not here for that. Like, I don't have the drive or the willpower to have it all perfect. I would never be able to. I mean, yes, I've got degrees, and yes, I have things, I'm not illiterate, but in terms of my editing skills, I'm pretty much close to that.
It's not for everyone.
It's just on a focus. And I kind of just feel like they're wanting me to focus so much on my intuition to read people that's my priority. They've tuned everything out that's reading and language, like that's, I can't even focus on any of it. And so they're wanting me to focus on my actual skill sets of what I'm supposed to be here for. And, and I think once I mastered that, once I fully accept how I'm reading people and what I'm reading about people, and not feeling bad that I am observing, some of their integrity that may be needing to be strengthened into empowerment for themselves and others, I can understand the significance of that. People just have to accept it for, people have to just accept me for what I am. Thank you very much, though, for when you got declined from your subconscious, even though I wasn't the practitioner, and even though you have read Mastering Old Earth at that point. Thank you for not.
I was the practitioner with my mom.
Right.
I was trying to get the questions. I wanted to ask the question, and then they said, "Yeah, nothing to do with you at the moment." Like, mind your business.
Tough love at its finest. Well, yeah, but thank you for not abusing me, because I feel like a lot of people get frustrated they're not getting this advanced information that they're expecting, and then sort of somehow think, oh, well, this is just tricks, this is bullshit, this is something, instead of looking at their own inner work and holding themselves accountable and questioning, dear subconscious, last time you were a bit of a prick and said it wasn't for me. Now, give me some more information of why. What can I do to be able to get this information? Because from this perspective, I am desperate to understand that information. So help me out more and see what they say. But yeah, thanks for not abusing me. That was kind of you.
No, why would I? I don't even understand why would people would get angry at the vehicle, like you said previously. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make sense. If anything, we're gonna look within to make sure that we're aligned with what we say we're doing and what we want to do. Yeah, and it's no one's fault if you're not getting it.
Yeah, but there are some people here who feel very entitled and feel very elite with their position and their status, and that's all cute and all, but it kind of seems like how they're projecting themselves to the world and the reality of the information that they're getting from their own personal sessions and through their clients, there's a huge sort of buffer difference, and that's all fine. It must be weighing heavy on their own morals and their own sort of, I don't know what to call it, guilty conscious. I don't know. I do know lots of practitioners, especially level 3s, have sort of mentioned to me their frustration. Why am I not getting advanced information? How come I'm not getting any content for books? And I'm like, well, could you ask your subconscious this? Because again, I'm not going to say what I think and feel about it, because even though people are asking me, sometimes I feel like they don't truly want the answers, and that's all fine. And so, let me help you ask your subconscious questions. I'm here for that. Because it's easier to hear it when you're channeling ourselves, when the subconscious will say something. Or like, did you hear my friend jump through a session the other day? Oh, you may not have listened to it, but she exited last year, and she jumped in to a session the other day because she's she's merging into her more empowered soul essence stuff. Her energy is huge. It's beautiful. And she just had the confidence to come in because she, as a true friend, jumped in to give me information about a perspective that I was not seeing, that I needed to see to be able to get over myself with. And, that's what a true friend does. It came with love. I could feel her love, but she wanted to help me so much. And she knew that this wasn't going to disempower me. She knew that this was going to empower me. Getting that perspective was super empowering, because it released me from feeling really upset that people were, I saw someone keep referring to the information stories. And I think it's a British thing. I don't quite know where I got this from, this limited perspective that when you use the word story, it's, like a made up fable versus a true story that could be, real.
Yeah, but they came in with love to let you know that.
Yeah, her delivery was fantastic. Her delivery was delicious. And there was so much tears. And it was just this recognition. But she's still trying to like process and think about how she could have empowered her human life more. And what she realizes is that she took everyone for word value. I know some of the influences that she was following, and she was so confused because she was like, I want to believe, and I do believe everyone. But she's like, how can I then find the truth? Like she's like, is it all truth? And that was her biggest thing, was that when you have no filter of discernment, and everyone's saying such different things, she really didn't know. So it was kind of like, it was weird, because when I was talking to her, it was like she believed the information from our sessions, and she believed information from other people's videos and their perspectives, and even what I would classify as fake channelers. She liked them as people, thought that they were kind people, and they didn't do or say anything that made her think, wait a minute, you're trying to disempower people. So
Because
I
they
know
seem so genuine, some of them, like they just,
yeah.
you look at them and you're like, oh, but then it doesn't resonate with you. Something that they're saying, it doesn't,
Yeah.
you know, it's like you're saying all the right things, but there's something inside that's saying, well, yeah, it's time to move on. You know
Well,
what I mean? Like,
I mean, technically all stepping stones should be the truth, right? But it's kind of like the building blocks,
mm,
number one's always going to be true. And when you add another component of that stepping block to make it two stepping blocks, it's still number one's still the truth of being the first stepping stone. And each time you build up on these blocks, you should be gaining more perspectives and information. And
yeah,
this is why I sort of say to people when I hear people say, oh, no, that doesn't resonate. And I'm like, tell me why it doesn't resonate. Is it because you've already overstepped those stepping stones? Or is this new information that you've never considered before? And so therefore it doesn't resonate because you're not at that 10th step and you're only at step 4. There is this common thing in the spiritual world. Oh, if it doesn't resonate, drop it. I'm saying if it doesn't resonate, pick it up and question, why does it not resonate? Is it because this is old information that I've outgrown? And so therefore, yeah, that's cute and all, but that's step 3, 4, and 5. And now I'm blah, 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 blah. We shouldn't be dropping anything. We should be able to put things in big places. And I know there's huge concepts that I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely going to be in my future experiences where I'm going to explore that more. But right now, that's too big of a deal to like process that. I feel like that's, eating the steak when I'm still like on the baby food. And so I kind of, I feel like I know my sort of place. I still know I've got heaps to learn and grow from. That's exciting, but I'm not in a rush because I don't want to shortcut anything. Because when you start shortcuts, then those foundational steps and stepping stones are sort of holy and not placed securely. And so when you're trying to rush and build anything, it's kind of like me knitting. Like I could try to go knitting heaps and fast and drop heaps of stitches, and it would look like an interesting scarf that had lots of holes in it, but like, yay, I won. I did 1,000 of these lines, and now I have this really ugly, problematic scarf. Whereas if I actually took the journey properly and didn't miss any skips or steps or rows or stitches or whatever the terminology for knitting is, when I actually go through it properly, then that's a solid functional scarf if one wore scarves. So, the journey is amazing and everyone's got different ways to skip around these and to jump through and empower themselves through these steps. But taking smaller steps is always going to be faster and beneficial, I think, than gigantic ones, because, sometimes they can shock us and almost put us back a few more steps as we are, not willing to really be prepared for that level of information.
Exactly. And if you're thinking about once you leave this earth experience and then you're looking back, you don't want to have any regrets of
No.
jumping ahead. You could have, really build those steps, and you're so much closer than you think you are half the time.
Yeah.
But it's just that impatientness, the human impatientness about, well, I should be, I should be here because so-and-so's here, and or whatever.
Comparing.
You just
Yeah,
walk in,
they're
yeah.
comparing of others. They're not
Mm,
living, they may have, yeah, there's zero, even though we're equal and even though we're all one and no one's above or below us or ahead or behind of us, when we start comparing ourselves to other people, that's when we truly get lost. And I think that's
yeah.
what sort of Lauren was sort of saying, was that she was listening and accepting everyone's word and everyone's words. And so there was so much internal information that she couldn't actually get the external out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's an amazing time, but honoring our own journey is super significant because my life contract may not be your life contract, and
Exactly. That's why I understand,
yeah,
because
yeah,
you don't know where people are. You don't know what their contracts are. You don't know what they're supposed to be experiencing.
yeah, and you don't know what they've done or they haven't done in other lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why we just accept all, love all, and make sure that we're loving ourselves enough to know, that I see people wanting to hold on to the good days and then not wanting to process the tough times or conflicts or challenges, and they want to skip ahead with those. And I sort of say, well, you're going to have a lot more good days if you actually do honor those harder conversations and those harder conflicts and empower yourself through that. And, it is challenging. It's super hard. It can be super hard, but it's about honoring each interaction as we're having it, and to be able to speak our true truth and to not be afraid of if it makes us sound super crazy. And it's about, I think we could talk to anyone about how we feel and our emotions. I mean, that's pretty safe. Everyone's got feelings and everyone's trying to understand our emotions. I think it's when we talk about concepts and topics that's when we start losing our sort of perspectives from each other, because we all can relate with feeling and joy and excitement and, struggling with a few emotional things or, a few current topic things, that's honoring what we're going through. But when we sort of start having and titling our perspectives, I mean, I know there's quite a few practitioners that got vaccinated, and I also know that Dolores Cannon said never, ever, ever do. And, there is this hot topic conversation of between practitioners about this. And, we all have to have our own experiences. And again, if we are stuck and don't quite know what our internal dialogue is, then, have a session, and turns are free.
Exactly. I mean, like, that's another way of realizing. So when the injections were coming over, everybody had to get it done. It's like, I've always been wanting to be with, the crowd, even though I've never been with the crowd. Which that's the funny thing about it, that I've never been one to be with the crowd, but I didn't want to be perceived as not being with the crowd. And then I had to go within, and and there was just like this deep sorrow in my heart, in my soul, and it was like, no, that's not for you. You let whoever do whatever, but that's not for you to do. That's not for you. And that's the same thing when you try to discern things from, other people. You got to look within. Is this for me? Do I need to be, or, just, and then you'll get the answer. You'll get the, just quieting the mind for a few minutes will give you what you need at that point. And it might not be what so-and-so is talking to you about, even though you love this person and how they express themselves.
Yeah.
You can leave them where they are and just go within and see if that's for you or not.
Yeah. And I mean, people are finding out the hard way, aren't they? That they had to do something that they didn't, everything in their bodies and their minds and their dreams, all the signs, all of the things were leading them into one direction of what they should be doing. And then there was this other, it's very persuasive. And, my heart goes out to everyone who feels like they were coerced into something that they never wanted, and they still did it. And they're very stressed about it now, and there's no judgment on anything that anyone does. I mean, we're all in this very challenging situation of just trying to be human, and human makes heaps of mistakes, and that's perfectly human. There is no mistakes, it's experiences. It's very challenging times, and we knew it was going to get more challenging, and there is even more things to come, obviously, because a lot more things need to be awoken, and a lot more people need to be deeply triggered to even get them into having the opportunity to heal from that.
Yeah. And that's, what happens when there's no one, when you can't watch anyone telling you what's going on or what you should be feeling. You're going to have to go within.
Yeah.
So you may as well start practicing now, so you know what to look for when
well, I would
here.
ask people, why are you afraid to even be quiet and go within? Because there's it seems like a lot of social butterflies have really struggled since 2020, because they identify being successful and loved and popular by the number of crowds and the people that they hang out with. And so when they love to have big parties and they love to have heaps of big gatherings and all this sort of stuff, and the more physical friends they have makes them feel secure about how important and popular they are. 2020 was a very challenging time for them because they literally had to just be by themselves. They almost went stir crazy because they've never, ever considered that they were of value by themselves. If they could only take selfies by themselves, I mean, is there any point taking selfies?
Exactly. But that's devaluing themselves and giving the power out to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only this because, I've got my friends and whatever. But if you, at the end of the day, you've just got self.
Yeah.
And
they had to meet themselves. They'd never experienced that before because they'd always lived through social media for all their gratifications and their loves and their likes and their comments and their empowerment. They were disempowering themselves through living through a social media platform. That was their identity, and that was their strive. And if it wasn't on social media and wasn't being, worshipped and whatnot,
did it really
did it really matter? Yeah. There is this new trend right now going along parents. Maybe I just created it. I'm not too sure. Where parents are just taking photos of their kids in the most messiest states where they've got knotty hair and they've got food all over their faces and, dirty clothes because they've just had a full day of fun. Like, that's a real statement of a kid's life. And yet it's not kind of common to see children in their true form.
Yeah, exactly. But like I've got a few of those of my daughter. She's got like chocolate all over her or like yogurt all over her face.
Mm-hmm.
But had I had my in-laws nearby, they would have been like, "Oh, what a bad mother!" You need to clean your daughter's face or whatever. You know what I mean? But
it's our fault that they can. They want to. I mean, Grayson was eating cherries this morning, and he had like cherries all over, like cherry juice. Like he had like amazing lipstick that was like put on by, someone who was drunk or something. It was fantastic. I took photos of that because I just love it because it's in the moment. It's a real moment, and you miss so many great memories when there's. I mean, I just was thinking about. I was just noticing, a lot of my like favorite clothes have holes in them, and I was like, man, the old Joe would have just been like, oh my god, this is horrific. I'm never going to wear this. But then I realized that I have favorite clothes, and I love them so much that they do get extra wears and tears. And when I used to paint a lot, I'd get paint on my favorite clothes, and it was just an added on part of the the time frame where I was a painter, and it was the best way to express myself was through expressionist landscape painting. That's all I could do at that moment in my life. I couldn't express my feelings. I think if I tried to express any of my feelings at that stage of my life, I just would have cried because everything was super overwhelming. And so all I could communicate with the world was color, a color palette of landscapes.
Yeah. And you gotta honor that human experience, don't you? And when you can't function. And if and we're not all perfect. Well, we're not. We're far from perfect, but we
perfectly
always
human.
so we always show perfection to people, or like close to, with nothing on our faces and perfectly groomed or whatever. But being human is being messy, is being your true self, not what people expect you to be or what you think people want to see from you.
Yeah. And I think that's when you start becoming truly spiritually mature, when you actually just honor things as they are, as they is, and not trying to formulate them into any approvable format. It's just and I think I was being they were trying, my teams were trying to teach me this when I was doing pottery. And like I really did not like how some of the porcelain would warp in the kiln. And I wanted, I wanted factory made perfect precision um items of mine made. But yet they were handmade. And I was comparing my end results from, say, like a professional, like just a cookie cutter machine of pottery, fine china and all, versus my handcrafted stuff. I never valued what I handcrafted because in the back of my mind, I was still trying to compare it to being perfect. And I had a lot of assumptions of what I wanted the end product to be. And anyone that's done pottery, there is a pottery god and there's a kiln god, and he says how things will be, and you will love that. And yeah,
out.
it's like the clay has its own memory, the clay has its own independence, it has its own sassiness, it has its own you know its own expression, interpretation of what how it's been formed and what we've done to it. It expresses, it shows us all its weaknesses and our and all stuff. Like it's a very expressive statement of what it's gone through in its life of being this form. There's so much to learn from it, but we just have to keep seeking out what are these lessons here. We're having all these experiences, fantastic, right? But what is the lessons behind all of these? Are we noticing all of it?
Yeah. And are we honoring it? Are we honoring that experience? Because, we all don't want to go through the lowest points, which we all do.
Yeah.
But we all, we don't even want to talk about it half the time when you're feeling low. Like, I think there was one of the sessions that they said, you can marinate in the density once in a while, but get your water, get yourself back up and, go back up. You don't need to stay there.
Yeah, there's choices.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. But it's interesting though, because it kind of seems like people slip into these habits of density, and then something will jolt them out of it, and they're like, "Holy shit!" And people message me and they're like, "Joe, the last 3 months of my life, I stopped listening to sessions, I stopped drinking water, they confess to me all the stuff that they sort of have stopped doing, neglected doing, and then they kind of like hit rock bottom on their butt, and then they're like." They just like snap into this and they realize, oh my, yeah, this got into this other routine, and it started off really small, and then they sort of didn't really notice the impact of it, and then they went into that density. But then often I sort of say to them, well, who else were you supporting in that density? Often we go down into density to help support someone out of it. And so that's usually when they're like, oh yeah, so and so, or if they don't quite recognize it yet, have a session, interns are free.
Ask about
it. Okay, well, my biggest honor and gratitude to you, my friend, for helping all of those people who can read Spanish, who will be able to now understand this information and explore this information, and then be motivated to experience having their own sessions to expand upon. Question the heck out of everything that's in the books. That's what they're there for. They're not to tell you what to think and do and be. It is about, experiencing something that needs to be questioned by your own teams, to be able to help us all. That's how I think they should be used anyway.
Exactly. And it's not because it's in a book, it should be, it's the Bible. I mean, like everybody should be questioning the Bible, some bits of the Bible definitely, but then they take it as, oh no, this is God's word and this is what has been said. Like you're not to question the Bible. It's like you to question everything, being your book is no exception, and the information in there. If it doesn't, if you want to know more about it, ask yourself. Ask and all that information for yourself.
Did I say that's how kind of where people are getting stuck and lost in religions is because they're listening to other, again, kind of like what Lauren was saying, she was listening to all of these spiritual people and these truth communities, and it was all this external input towards her. She didn't know her own feelings and thoughts. And so, it's all cute to hear other people's opinions and all, but it's about empowering ourselves to our own inner voices and wisdom and knowledge.
Yeah.
It gets tricky though, I've noticed, because people are like, yeah, I totally listen to my intuition. And then they say all this stuff. And I go, wait a minute.
Is that Mr. Stupid?
Mr. Stupid came to town. No, but it was more like, oh my gosh, when you haven't done enough of your inner work, your intuition still can be really heightened and getting all your attention, but your intuition is coming from a fear-based perspective because you haven't done the inner work to heal. And so are you still kind of, let's be dramatic here. Are you still a broken child who's getting great intuition that the world's still trying to get you and that you should be in fear? And that you should be scared and afraid and timid and small and blah, 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 blah. Because if we haven't healed ourselves, our intuition's just crazy. It's like it's an addition of our unhealed perspectives still controlling us. Now, I sort of think this is why we're supposed to heal, to then have the real connections of our teams, our guidance. Because, are we just using Mr. Stupid's intuition versus, our subconscious's intuition to help us live the best 3D lives we can?
Exactly.
Okay, my friend. Well, lovely chatting to you. Thank you for all that you do. All the best for your amazing sessions. Your clients are so lucky. And let's keep in touch and see what else we can get up to. Get up to some mischief for humanity.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic.